In the year 2356, humanity had become a formidable spacefaring civilization, known and feared across the galaxy. The United Earth Federation, UEF, had established colonies on countless worlds and maintained a powerful fleet of warships to defend its interests. Among the stars, many alien races had either allied with or distanced themselves from the unpredictable humans, whose rapid expansion and technological prowess made them a force to be reckoned with. One such race, the delicate and peaceful Lunarians, found themselves in dire straits. The Lunarians were known for their advanced knowledge in bioengineering and their harmonious way of life, which centered around a deep respect for all living things. Their home planet, Lunaris, was a lush, vibrant world teeming with life and beauty. However, this paradise had become a battlefield. The merciless alien species known as the Zarnax, a warlike and technologically advanced race, had launched a brutal invasion. The Lunarians, with no military to speak of, were utterly defenseless against the onslaught. High Chancellor Elara, the leader of the Lunarians, stood in the Grand Council chamber, her heart heavy with despair. She activated the ancient communication device, a relic from a time when the Lunarians believed in interstellar unity and cooperation. Her message, broadcast across the galaxy, was simple and heartfelt. A plea for help, a call for aid to any who would listen. As the distress signal traveled through the void of space, it reached the ears of Captain Jonathan Reynolds of the HSS Resolute. A seasoned commander with a reputation for taking on impossible missions, Reynolds was known for his strategic brilliance and unwavering dedication to justice. His ship, the Resolute, was a state-of-the-art UEF battleship, equipped with the latest in human technology and crewed by some of the best minds in the fleet. Reynolds sat in his ready room, the soft hum of the ship's engines a constant background noise. The distress call from Lunaris played on a loop, the desperation in Elara's voice impossible to ignore. He knew the Zarnax well. Their reputation for brutality and conquest preceded them. The Lunarians' peaceful nature made them easy targets, and the thought of such a gentle race being eradicated stirred a deep sense of duty within him. After hours of contemplation, Reynolds summoned his senior officers, Commander Sarah Vega, his trusted second-in-command, Lieutenant Aisha Patel, the brilliant chief engineer, Dr. Emily Carter, the ship's compassionate medical officer, and Lieutenant James Hunter, the tactical genius and ace pilot, all gathered in the briefing room. They listened intently as Reynolds played the Lunarian message. "We can't ignore this," Reynolds said, his voice firm. "The Lunarians are defenseless. If we don't help them, they'll be wiped out." Commander Vega nodded, her expression serious. "But Captain, the Zarnax are formidable. Engaging them directly could mean a significant risk to the Resolute and our crew." Reynolds leaned forward, his eyes meeting those of his officers. "I know the risks, but I also know what's right. We've faced worse odds before and come out on top. This is about more than just a single mission. It's about standing up for those who can't defend themselves." The room fell silent as the weight of his words settled in. Each officer knew the stakes and the potential consequences, but they also shared Reynolds's sense of justice and duty. "We're with you, Captain," Lieutenant Hunter said, breaking the silence. "Let's show the Zarnax what happens when they mess with the wrong species." With the decision made, preparations for the mission began immediately. The HSS Resolute, a sleek and powerful vessel, was a marvel of human engineering, equipped with advanced weaponry, robust shields, and a hyperdrive capable of traversing vast distances in a matter of hours. The crew, a mix of seasoned warriors and tactical geniuses, was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Captain Reynolds stood on the bridge, surveying the organized chaos as his crew worked with precision. The bridge was a hub of activity, with officers at their stations, screens displaying streams of data, and the steady hum of the ship's systems creating a background symphony of technological prowess. He felt a surge of pride in his team's professionalism and dedication. "Lieutenant Hunter, plot a course to the Lunarian system," Reynolds ordered. "We need to get there as fast as possible." "Aye, Captain," Hunter replied, his fingers flying over the controls. "Course plotted and ready. We'll be in Lunarian space in 6 hours." Reynolds nodded, his mind already working through the myriad of potential scenarios they might face upon arrival. He knew the Zarnax would not be easily deterred, but he also knew that the element of surprise could be their greatest advantage. In the ship's armory, Lieutenant Patel oversaw the preparation of weapons and equipment. Her engineering expertise was crucial, ensuring that everything was in optimal condition for the upcoming battle. As she inspected a plasma rifle, she couldn't help but think of the Lunarians and their plight. She had always been driven by a desire to use her skills to protect and help others, and this mission embodied that goal. In the medical bay, Dr. Carter prepared for the inevitable influx of casualties. She coordinated with her medical team, ensuring that they were ready to handle everything from minor injuries to critical trauma. Her compassionate nature was her strength, and she was determined to save as many lives as possible, human and Lunarian alike. As the Resolute neared the Lunarian system, the tension on the ship was palpable. The crew members, though seasoned and battle-hardened, felt the weight of their mission. They were not just fighting for their own survival, but for the survival of an entire race. The ship emerged from hyperspace to a scene of devastation. Lunaris, once a beautiful and vibrant planet, was scarred and burning. The Zarnax fleet loomed ominously in orbit, their massive ships bristling with weaponry. The Resolute sensors detected numerous distress signals from the planet's surface, each one a cry for help. "Activate battle stations," Reynolds commanded, his voice steady. "Prepare to engage the enemy. We're not leaving until every Lunarian is safe." The Resolute surged forward, its weapon systems coming online. The first volley of plasma torpedoes streaked towards the nearest Zarnax ship, marking the beginning of a fierce and desperate battle. The humans had arrived, and they were ready to show the galaxy what they were capable of. Reynolds knew the coming hours would test them all, but he also knew they had no choice but to fight. The fate of the Lunarians depended on their courage and resolve, and he was determined not to let them down. The battle for Lunaris had begun, and the humans would stop at nothing to protect those in need. As the HSS Resolute plunged into the heart of the Lunarian system, the extent of the devastation became clear. The once pristine planet Lunaris was now a battlefield, its lush landscapes marred by craters and fires. The Zarnax fleet, with its sleek, menacing ships, maintained a tight grip around the planet, their weapons constantly bombarding the surface. The Lunarians, known for their advanced bioengineering but lacking any significant military force, were on the brink of annihilation. Captain Jonathan Reynolds stood resolute on the bridge, eyes fixed on the tactical displays. "Open a channel to the Lunarian Council," he ordered. The communications officer, Ensign Lila Morris, quickly established a link. The screen flickered to life, revealing the face of High Chancellor Ilara. Her pale blue skin and large, expressive eyes betrayed the exhaustion and desperation she felt. "High Chancellor Ilara, this is Captain Jonathan Reynolds of the HSS Resolute. We received your distress call and are here to assist. How can we help?" Ilara's relief was palpable. "Captain Reynolds, we are eternally grateful. The Zarnax have been relentless. Our cities are in ruins, and countless lives have been lost. We need your protection to evacuate our people and drive the Zarnax away." Reynolds nodded. "Understood. We're preparing to engage the Zarnax fleet and establish a safe corridor for evacuation. Stay strong, Chancellor. Help is here." The communication ended, and Reynolds turned to his crew. "All right, people, you heard the Chancellor. Our priority is to secure the planet and get as many Lunarians to safety as possible. Hunter, what's our status on weapons and shields?" "All systems are green, Captain," Lieutenant Hunter replied. "Weapons are hot, and shields are at full power. We're ready to give the Zarnax a fight they won't forget." Reynolds allowed himself a grim smile. "Good. Let's show them what happens when they threaten innocent lives. Engage the Zarnax fleet and protect those evacuation points." The Resolute surged forward, its advanced weaponry blazing to life. Plasma torpedoes streaked through the void, slamming into the nearest Zarnax ships. The enemy responded in kind, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts. The battle was fierce and chaotic, the void of space lit up by the deadly dance of starships. The Resolute's surprise attack caught the Zarnax off guard, allowing the humans to score several early victories. Zarnak ships exploded in fiery bursts, their sleek hulls no match for the devastating power of the Resolute's weapons. Despite the initial success, the Zarnaks quickly regrouped, their superior numbers and ferocity coming into play. Captain Reynolds barked orders, his mind racing to stay one step ahead of the enemy. Hunter, focus fire on their command ships. Patel, reroute power to the forward shields. We need to hold this line at all costs. Lieutenant Aisha Patel's fingers flew over the console, diverting energy to where it was needed most. Forward shields reinforced, Captain. We're holding, but we can't take this level of fire for long. The Zarnaks retaliated with relentless precision, their energy weapons hammering the Resolute's shields. The ship shuddered with each impact, the crew gripping their stations to maintain balance. Despite the intensity of the battle, the humans fought with unwavering resolve. On the surface of Linares, the Lunarians began their evacuation. Guided by coordinates provided by the Resolute, they made their way to designated safe zones where shuttles from the Resolute were landing. The sight of the massive human starship in the sky, fighting to protect them, filled the Lunarians with a mixture of hope and awe. Commander Sarah Vega coordinated the evacuation efforts from the Resolute's bridge. Shuttle teams, prioritize the young and the injured. We need to move quickly. Every second counts. Dr. Emily Carter worked tirelessly in the medical bay, preparing to receive the incoming refugees. The tension was palpable, but so was the determination to save as many lives as possible. Medical team, get ready. We're going to be overwhelmed, but we can do this. Every life saved is a victory. As the battle raged on, the Resolute's crew demonstrated extraordinary bravery and skill. Ensign Lila Morris managed communications, ensuring constant updates between the bridge and the evacuation teams. Lieutenant Hunter's tactical genius kept the Zarnaks at bay, exploiting every weakness he could find. Amid the chaos, Captain Reynolds never wavered. "We can't let them break through," he shouted. "Hold the line and keep those evacuation routes open." The Zarnak's fleet, realizing the humans' determination, intensified their assault. The Resolute's shields flared and flickered, barely holding under the sustained barrage, but the crew's spirit remained unbroken. Each member played their part with unwavering dedication, their collective effort a testament to humanity's resilience. Despite the overwhelming odds, the humans' resolve began to turn the tide. Zarnak ships fell one by one, their formations breaking under the relentless human assault. The Lunarians, witnessing the fierce defense, gained renewed hope. The evacuation continued, more and more Lunarians reaching the safety of the shuttles. As the battle stretched into hours, fatigue set in, but the Resolute's crew pressed on. They knew the fate of an entire race rested on their shoulders. Captain Reynolds, standing firm on the bridge, embodied the indomitable spirit of humanity. "We're not leaving until every Lunarian is safe," he declared, his voice resolute. The tide of battle slowly began to shift in favor of the Resolute. The humans' determination and tactical brilliance began to show results. With every Zarnak ship destroyed, the Lunarians' chances of survival increased. The fierce battle over Linares was far from over, but the humans had proven one thing. They would not abandon the helpless, and they would fight to the last breath to protect those in need. Despite their initial success in surprising the Zarnak's fleet, the crew of the HSS Resolute quickly realized that their victory was far from assured. The Zarnaks, known for their brutal efficiency and advanced technology, began to regroup. Their ships, sleek and menacing, closed ranks and launched a coordinated counterattack that tested the Resolute's defenses to their limits. Captain Reynolds braced himself as the ship shuddered under the impact of multiple enemy blasts. "Damage report," he barked. Lieutenant Patel, monitoring the ship's systems, responded immediately. "Forward shields are holding, but just barely. We've sustained damage to the portside thrusters. Repairs are underway, but it's going to take time." Commander Vega, her eyes fixed on the tactical display, spoke up. "Captain, the Zarnaks are concentrating their fire on our weak points. They're trying to box us in." Reynolds nodded, his mind racing through potential strategies. "Hunter, we need to break their formation. Target their lead ships and create an opening. Patel, reroute power from non-essential systems to the shields and weapons. We need every bit of power we can muster." Hunter's fingers danced over his console. "Aye, Captain. Targeting lead ships now. We'll give them something to think about. The Resolute's weapons roared to life, sending a barrage of plasma torpedoes toward the Zarnax formation. The enemy ships deftly maneuvered to evade, but the humans' precise targeting found its mark. Several Zarnax vessels were hit, causing explosions that temporarily disrupted their assault. But the Zarnax were relentless. Their return fire was swift and devastating. The Resolute's shields flared and dimmed under the onslaught, the ship groaning as it absorbed the impacts. The crew worked tirelessly, maintaining their focus and composure despite the mounting pressure. In the midst of the chaos, Ensign Morris intercepted a communication from the Zarnax flagship. "Captain, I'm picking up a transmission from the enemy commander. They're demanding our immediate surrender and threatening total annihilation if we don't comply." Reynolds set his jaw, his resolve hardening. "We don't negotiate with butchers. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to keep them off balance." As the battle raged on, the toll on the Resolute became evident. The ship was designed for endurance, but even its advanced systems had limits. Damage reports continued to flow in, and the medical bay was filling with injured crew members. Dr. Carter and her team worked tirelessly, tending to the wounded with unwavering dedication. The Zarnax, sensing an opportunity, intensified their assault. Their ships closed in, launching coordinated strikes aimed at overwhelming the Resolute's defenses. Despite the crew's best efforts, the ship was pushed to its breaking point. In the heat of the battle, Lieutenant Patel's analytical mind continued to seek a solution. As she monitored the enemy's attack patterns, something caught her eye. A subtle but consistent weakness in the Zarnax formation, a potential vulnerability that could turn the tide. "Captain, I found something," Patel called out. "The Zarnax are using a coordinated attack pattern, but it's creating a slight delay in their defensive maneuvers. If we can exploit that, we might be able to break through their lines." Reynolds nodded, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. "Good work, Patel. Hunter, adjust our targeting to exploit that weakness. Vega, prepare the crew for a full-scale counterattack. This is our chance." With a new strategy in place, the crew of the Resolute steeled themselves for the next phase of the battle. Lieutenant Hunter adjusted the targeting algorithms to focus on the identified weakness in the Zarnax formation, while Patel worked to optimize the ship's power distribution for maximum efficiency. "Targeting coordinates set," Hunter reported. "Ready to engage on your command, Captain." Reynolds took a deep breath, his gaze sweeping across his determined crew. "All right, people, this is it. On my mark, engage." The Resolute surged forward, its weapon systems unleashing a focused barrage aimed at the Zarnax's weak points. The enemy, caught off guard by the precision and intensity of the attack, struggled to maintain their formation. Several Zarnax ships were hit, their defenses faltering under the concentrated fire. The humans pressed their advantage, exploiting the opening created by Patel's analysis. The Resolute's weapons hammered the enemy fleet, forcing the Zarnax into a defensive posture. For the first time since the battle began, the tide seemed to be turning in favor of the humans. On the surface of Linares, the evacuation continued with renewed urgency. Linarian shuttles, guided by the Resolute's coordinates, ferried refugees to safety. High Chancellor Ilara monitored the progress from a makeshift command center, her heart lifted by the sight of the humans fighting valiantly above. "Thank the stars for the humans," she murmured to one of her aides. "Their courage and determination might just save us all." Back on the Resolute, the crew worked in unison, their efforts synchronized and precise. The tactical displays showed the Zarnax fleet faltering, their ships unable to maintain their relentless assault. But the battle was far from over. "Captain, we're receiving another communication from the Zarnax flagship," Ensign Morris reported. "They're demanding our surrender again, but there's something different this time. Their tone, it sounds desperate." Reynolds's eyes narrowed. "Patch it through." The screen flickered to life, revealing the grim visage of Commander Zalcor, the Zarnax fleet's leader. His expression was a mix of anger and frustration. "Human vessel, this is your final warning. Surrender now or face total destruction." Reynolds met Zalcor's gaze without flinching. "Your threats mean nothing to us. We will not abandon the Linarians. If you want this planet, you'll have to go through us." Zalcor snarled, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "You're making a grave mistake, human. The Zarnax do not forget and do not forgive." "We'll see about that," Reynolds replied, cutting the transmission. "Hunter, continue the assault. Patel, how are those repairs coming?" "Making progress, Captain," Patel responded. "Portside thrusters are back online, and I've rerouted additional power to the shields. We're holding steady." As the battle raged on, the crew's determination began to pay off. The Zarnax fleet, though still formidable, was clearly feeling the pressure. Their formations were breaking, and their attacks lacked the earlier precision. The humans' relentless assault was taking its toll. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Zarnax fleet began to retreat. One by one, their ships pulled back, disengaging from the fight. The Resolute, battered but unbroken, held its position, its crew watching as the enemy withdrew. A cheer erupted on the bridge, the crew celebrating their hard-fought victory. Reynolds allowed himself a rare smile, his heart swelling with pride for his team. "We did it," he said softly. "We held the line." The immediate threat had been repelled, but the battle was not without cost. The Resolute had sustained significant damage, and the toll on the crew was heavy. But in that moment, they had achieved something remarkable. A glimmer of hope for the Lunarians, and a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit. With the Zarnax fleet in retreat, Captain Reynolds knew that this was a critical moment. The Zarnax would not stay away for long, and the Lunarians needed a permanent solution to their plight. The Resolute's crew, though tired and battle-worn, immediately began planning their next move. They knew that to truly secure the Lunarian safety, they had to strike at the heart of the Zarnax fleet. Reynolds called a strategy meeting with his senior officers in the Resolute's war room. The holographic table in the center of the room displayed the Zarnax fleet's known positions and the layout of their flagship. Lieutenant Patel's analysis had revealed a potential weakness in the Zarnax command structure, and they intended to exploit it. "Patel, Hunter, Vega," Reynolds began, his voice steady and determined. "We need to hit the Zarnax where it hurts. Their command ship is the key. If we can disable it, we can throw their entire fleet into disarray." Patel pointed to a specific point on the holographic map. "The Zarnax flagship relies on a central command system that coordinates their fleet's movements. If we can infiltrate and disable this system, we can effectively neutralize their advantage." Hunter nodded, his tactical mind already formulating a plan. "We'll need a small elite team to board the flagship and take out their command center. It's a risky move, but if we pull it off, it could turn the tide in our favor." Reynolds agreed. "Prepare the team. We'll take the Resolute in close and create a diversion to give our boarding party a chance." Commander Vega, always composed and ready, added, "We'll need to coordinate with the Lunarians on the ground to ensure their safety while we're engaging the flagship. Ilara and her council need to be kept in the loop." With the plan set, preparations for the mission began immediately. The boarding team, handpicked for their skills and bravery, suited up in the Resolute's armory. Captain Reynolds would lead the mission himself, along with Lieutenant Patel, Commander Vega, and a select group of Marines trained for covert operations. As they boarded the assault shuttle, the rest of the Resolute's crew prepared to engage the Zarnax fleet once more. The ship's engineers worked tirelessly to patch up damage and optimize the systems for the upcoming battle. Dr. Carter and her medical team readied themselves for the inevitable casualties. The Resolute approached the Zarnax fleet under the guise of a strategic withdrawal. As expected, the Zarnax took the bait, regrouping and preparing to launch a counteroffensive. At the last moment, the Resolute turned and charged directly at the Zarnax flagship, weapons blazing. "All hands, prepare for battle!" Reynolds' voice echoed through the ship. The Resolute's guns fired in rapid succession, creating a chaotic battlefield that masked the shuttle's approach to the Zarnax flagship. The shuttle docked with the enemy ship, and the boarding team swiftly disembarked. They moved with precision and silence, neutralizing any Zarnax soldiers they encountered. The corridors of the flagship were a labyrinth of sleek, metallic passageways, dimly lit and patrolled by heavily armed guards. Lieutenant Patel led the way, her engineering expertise invaluable in bypassing security systems and unlocking doors. "We're close to the command center," she whispered. "Just a few more meters." As they approached their target, the team encountered heavier resistance. Zarnak's soldiers, alerted to their presence, launched a fierce counterattack. The humans fought back with unmatched determination, their weapons blazing in the dim light. Commander Vega took point, her combat skills and strategic mind guiding the team through the intense firefight. "Keep moving, we need to reach that command center." They finally reached the command center's entrance, a heavily fortified door. Patel worked quickly to hack the control panel, her fingers flying over the interface. Just a few more seconds. The door slid open, revealing the heart of the Zarnak's flagship. Banks of computers and holographic displays filled the room, manned by stunned Zarnak's officers. Reynolds and his team stormed in, taking out the guards and securing the area. "Patel, shut it down," Reynolds ordered, covering her as she moved to the central console. The Zarnak's officers put up a desperate fight, but the humans' resolve was unbreakable. Patel accessed the command systems, her mind focused and precise. "Disabling the fleet's command network, now," Patel announced as she pressed a final sequence of keys. The lights flickered, and the holographic displays went dark. The Zarnak's fleet outside suddenly found themselves without centralized coordination, their movements becoming erratic and disorganized. The boarding team fought their way back to the shuttle, the Zarnak's in disarray. They launched from the flagship and returned to the Resolute, their mission a success. On the bridge of the Resolute, the crew watched as the Zarnak's fleet struggled to regroup. "This is our chance," Reynolds declared. "All ships, focus fire on the remaining Zarnak's vessels. Let's finish this." The Resolute and the Allied ships launched a final decisive assault. The Zarnak's, now leaderless and disorganized, could not withstand the combined might of the humans and their allies. One by one, the enemy ships fell, and the battle for Linares was won. The victory over the Zarnak's flagship was a significant turning point, but it came at a high cost. The team returned to the Resolute to a hero's welcome, but their celebration was cut short as reports of heavy casualties and extensive damage began to pour in. The reality of war's toll was unmistakable. Lieutenant Patel, who had played a crucial role in disabling the Zarnak's command network, had been critically injured during the retreat. She lay in the medical bay, her condition unstable. Dr. Carter and her team worked tirelessly to stabilize her, but the prognosis was uncertain. Captain Reynolds visited Patel, standing silently beside her bed. Her bravery had turned the tide of the battle, and her sacrifice was a stark reminder of the cost of their victory. "You did us proud, Aisha," he whispered, his voice heavy with emotion. "We wouldn't have made it without you." As the Resolute's crew dealt with their losses, the Linarians continued their evacuation. High Chancellor Ilara, grateful beyond words, coordinated with Commander Vega to ensure every Linarian was accounted for and safely transported. The combined efforts of humans and Linarians fostered a growing bond between the two species. Meanwhile, Reynolds and his officers held a war council to discuss their next move. The Zarnak's fleet, though heavily damaged, still posed a threat. The recent battle had bought them time, but a permanent solution was needed. "Captain," Hunter began, "we've received intel that the remaining Zarnak's forces are regrouping at a nearby star system. They're likely planning a counterattack." Reynolds nodded. "We can't let them regroup and strike again. We need to take the fight to them and ensure they can't threaten anyone else." Dr. Carter entered the room, her face drawn but determined. "Lieutenant Patel is stable for now, but she's not out of the woods yet. She'd want us to finish what we started." "Then we will," Reynolds said, a steely determination in his voice. "We owe it to Patel, to our fallen comrades, and to the Linarians." With the decision made, the Resolute prepared for the next phase of their mission. The crew, despite their fatigue, were galvanized by their recent victory and the knowledge that their actions could bring lasting peace. Captain Reynolds knew they couldn't do it alone. They needed allies. Reynolds initiated contact with several nearby civilizations, many of whom had remained neutral in the conflict. The story of humanity's defense of the Linarians had spread, and the galaxy was watching. The first to respond was the Trailer Confederacy, a technologically advanced but isolationist race, Their representative, Ambassador Zara, appeared on the Resolute's view screen. "Captain Reynolds, the Trailer Confederacy has monitored your actions. Your bravery and dedication to justice have impressed us. We are prepared to join your cause." Next was the Auroch, a warrior race known for their honor and combat prowess. Their leader, Warlord Krog, offered his support. "Humans, you have shown great strength and honor in protecting the weak. The Auroch will stand with you against the Zarnax." The response from other species was similarly positive. The Valar, the Elori, and even the enigmatic Sylphs pledged their support. The humans' fierce defense of the Lunarians had inspired a coalition of races united against the Zarnax threat. With the Allied fleet assembled, Reynolds addressed his crew and their new allies. "We stand on the brink of a new era. Our unity and determination will see us through. Together, we will bring an end to the Zarnax threat and secure a future of peace and cooperation." The combined fleet moved out, each ship ready for the final confrontation. The journey to the Zarnax regrouping point was tense, with every crew member aware of the stakes. The fleet emerged from hyperspace to find the Zarnax forces preparing for another assault. Reynolds stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his eyes fixed on the enemy fleet. "All ships, this is it. Engage the Zarnax and show them the power of our unity, for humanity, for the Lunarians, and for the future of our galaxy." The battle began in earnest, with the Allied fleet launching a coordinated assault on the Zarnax. The enemy, though still formidable, was taken aback by the sheer number and determination of the Allied forces. Ships clashed in a dazzling display of firepower and tactics, each side fighting with everything they had. On the Resolute, the crew worked with practiced precision. Hunter directed the ship's weapons with deadly accuracy, while Patel, recovering in the medical bay, provided critical technical support through the comms. Dr. Carter and her team braced for the incoming casualties, ready to do whatever it took to save lives. As the battle raged, the Allied fleet began to gain the upper hand. The Zarnax, without their central command structure, struggled to maintain cohesion. One by one, their ships fell to the relentless onslaught of the Allied forces. Finally, the flagship of the Zarnax fleet was disabled, its weapons silenced and its engines failing. Captain Reynolds seized the moment, ordering a ceasefire. "This is Captain Jonathan Reynolds of the United Earth Federation. Zarnax forces, you are defeated. Surrender now, and you will be treated with honor and respect." The Zarnax, realizing their hopeless situation, began to power down their weapons and engines. The battle was over, and the threat of the Zarnax had been neutralized. The Allied fleet celebrated their hard-won victory, but the true triumph was the unity and cooperation that had brought them together. For the first time, races that had once been indifferent or even hostile to one another stood side by side, united by a common cause and a shared vision of a better future. The defeat of the Zarnax flagship marked a turning point, but the battle was not yet over. Although the Zarnax forces were in disarray, pockets of resistance remained, and the Allies needed to ensure that the threat was completely neutralized. The Allied fleet, though victorious, was weary and had suffered its share of casualties. The final push required everything they had left. Captain Reynolds stood on the bridge of the Resolute, rallying his crew for the final assault. "We've come this far, and we can't falter now. We need to root out the remaining Zarnax forces and ensure they can never threaten anyone again. This is our final stand." The Allied fleet advanced, targeting the remaining Zarnax ships with precision. Each ship in the fleet played a critical role, their combined firepower overwhelming the fragmented Zarnax resistance. The Zarnax, once confident and dominant, now fought desperately, their morale shattered by the loss of their flagship. Commander Vega coordinated with the Allied commanders, ensuring a unified and strategic approach to the final assault. "Focus on their power centers and weapon systems. We need to disable their ability to fight back without causing unnecessary destruction." As the Allied ships moved in, the Resolute led the charge. Lieutenant Hunter's tactical brilliance shone through, his targeting solutions hitting key Zarnax systems with pinpoint accuracy. The Allied fleet methodically dismantled the Zarnax defenses, their resistance growing weaker with each passing moment. In the midst of the battle, Lieutenant Patel, still recovering but determined to contribute, provided crucial technical support. From her position in the medical bay, she analyzed the Zarnak systems, identifying vulnerabilities and relaying this information to the bridge. "Captain, I found a weakness in their secondary power grid. If we target it, we can disable their remaining weapons," Patel communicated through the ship's intercom. Reynolds relayed the information to the fleet. "All ships, adjust your targeting to the coordinates provided by Lieutenant Patel. Let's finish this." The Allied ships followed the directive, focusing their fire on the specified targets. Explosions rippled through the Zarnak's fleet as their power systems failed, rendering their ships defenseless. The battle reached its climax, the Allied forces pressing their advantage and pushing the Zarnaks to the brink of collapse. Finally, with a series of coordinated strikes, the last of the Zarnak's ships were disabled. The void of space, once filled with the chaos of battle, fell silent. The Allied fleet, battered but unbroken, stood victorious. A cheer erupted across the bridge of the Resolute, the crew celebrating their hard-fought victory. Reynolds allowed himself a moment of relief, knowing that their sacrifices had not been in vain. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with pride. "We've secured a future for the Lunarians and shown the galaxy the strength of unity." The aftermath of the battle revealed the true cost of their victory. The Allied fleet, though triumphant, bore the scars of the conflict. Ships were damaged, and the medical bays were filled with wounded. The cost in lives weighed heavily on everyone, a sobering reminder of the price of peace. Captain Reynolds ordered a full assessment of the damage and the immediate aid to the injured. Dr. Carter and her medical team worked tirelessly, treating the wounded from all species, their unity in action reflecting the spirit of their alliance. As repairs began, High Chancellor Ilara and a delegation of Lunarians boarded the Resolute to formally thank the crew. Ilara, her gratitude evident, addressed Reynolds and his officers. "Captain Reynolds, the Lunarians owe you and your allies a debt that can never be repaid. Your bravery and sacrifice have saved our people and our world." Reynolds, humbled by the praise, responded, "Chancellor Ilara, it was an honor to stand with you. Our victory was only possible because of the unity and cooperation of all our allies. Together, we've shown that no threat is insurmountable when we stand together." The Allied commanders convened a council to discuss the future. The Zarnak's threat had been neutralized, but the galaxy was still a complex and often dangerous place. They agreed to form a coalition dedicated to mutual defense and cooperation, ensuring that no race would ever have to face such a threat alone again. Warlord Krog of the Auroch stood, his imposing figure a symbol of strength. "The Auroch are honored to stand with such worthy allies. Together we will ensure the peace and safety of our worlds." Ambassador Zara of the Trailor Confederacy added, "The Trailor have long remained isolated, but this alliance has shown us the power of unity. We pledge our support to this coalition." The formation of the Galactic Defense Coalition was formalized, with representatives from each allied race signing a charter of mutual aid and cooperation. The Resolute's actions had not only saved the Lunarians, but had also laid the foundation for a new era of galactic unity. As the dust settled and the fleets began to disband, the Lunarians started the arduous task of rebuilding their world. The Resolute remained in orbit, providing assistance and resources to help with the reconstruction. The bond between humans and Lunarians grew stronger, their shared experiences forging a lasting friendship. Captain Reynolds stood on the bridge, looking out at the planet below. The scars of battle were still visible, but so was the resilience and determination of its people. "We've come a long way," he mused, reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. Commander Vega joined him, her expression thoughtful. "The galaxy has changed, Captain. We've shown that together we can face any challenge." Reynolds nodded, a sense of hope filling him. "Indeed, and as long as we stand together, the future is bright." The Resolute's mission had come to an end, but its legacy would endure. The story of their bravery and the alliance they forged would be remembered as a turning point in galactic history. The crew of the Resolute, having faced the darkest of times and emerged victorious, set course for home, knowing that their actions had paved the way for a brighter future for all. The victory over the Zarnax and the formation of the Galactic Defense Coalition marked the beginning of a new era. Linares, though scarred by the war, was a symbol of hope and resilience. The planet became a hub of interstellar cooperation, where different species worked together to rebuild and strengthen their bonds. High Chancellor Ilara, inspired by the bravery and unity shown by the humans and their allies, initiated the establishment of the Galactic Alliance Center on Linares. This center would serve as a permanent headquarters for the coalition, fostering diplomacy, shared technology, and mutual defense strategies. Captain Reynolds and the crew of the Resolute were honored guests at the inauguration ceremony. The event was a grand affair, attended by dignitaries from across the galaxy. Flags of different civilizations fluttered in the breeze, and representatives mingled, their differences set aside in favor of a shared future. Ilara stood at the podium, her voice strong and hopeful. Today we stand united, not just as Linarians, humans, or Trailer, but as members of a greater galactic family. Our victory over the Zarnax has shown us that together we can overcome any challenge. Let this center be a beacon of hope and cooperation for all future generations. Reynolds, standing beside her, felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The sacrifices made by his crew and by allies like Lieutenant Patel had paved the way for this moment. The sense of unity and purpose was palpable, and he knew they had achieved something truly remarkable. After the ceremony, Reynolds mingled with the other dignitaries. Warlord Crow approached him, a rare smile on his usually stern face. "Captain Reynolds, you and your crew have earned the respect of the Auroch. Our people have much to learn from your example of courage and honor." Reynolds shook Crow's hand firmly. "The feeling is mutual, Warlord Crow. Together we've shown what's possible when we put aside our differences and work towards a common goal." Ambassador Zara joined them, her voice filled with gratitude. The Trailer Confederacy was hesitant to engage with other civilizations, but this alliance has opened our eyes. We are committed to this new path of cooperation. As the evening progressed, the sense of camaraderie grew. Different species shared their cultures, food, and stories, forging bonds that went beyond mere alliances. It was a celebration of unity and the promise of a brighter future.